Hi, it's Rick here. I just wanted to do a little quick demo on how I deal with reclaimed clay. So this clay had been soaking in a pretty large vat of a tub of water actually after being repurposed. And what I do is I take that slippy clay and I put it in this great big plaster bat that I use to, basically it's a drying sink. Built this a couple years ago. Awesome for its purpose. Yeah, I can put a lot of clay in it, and pretty wet clay at that. And my temperature in my studio is about 60 degrees, so really slippy clay takes about a half hour to 45 minutes to get to a point where it's workable. So I go ahead and I take it from that state, and once it's dry enough, I go ahead and I take the clay, and before I even start wedging it, I know there's going to be air pockets in it. So what I do is I take off just a little bit and I slam it in a pile down onto the surface of my wedging table. And the reason that I do this is to work out any air pockets that might be in it. Just the force of slamming it down pushes air pockets outward and upward. So once I get all of this clay smashed down into a pile, then I'll start my wedging process. And the wedging process is pretty simple. Doing a standard coiled over wedging. I don't do ram's head wedging very much, just because I find, unless I'm working with a very large quantity of clay, that doing that ram's head process is kind of unnecessary. But because of the fact that I'm using reclaimed clay and there might be some inconsistencies in the actual moisture of some of the clay inside of it, what I will do is I will just do this wedging, and I'll wedge it roughly 50 or 60 times in a single direction. And I'm actually kind of lost my count here, but I'm guessing that I'm probably around 30. Once I feel pretty satisfied that I've gotten the air pushed out of it in this direction, what I'll do is I'll just kind of slowly roll it back over itself, make it into a ball, and then I'll put it back down on my wedging table, and I'll wedge it in a 90-degree pattern against the wedging pattern I used before. A couple things about clay. Clay is made of platelets, little tiny microscopic platelets of clay, and the wedging process does two functions. It serves to not only de-air and remove any air pockets that might be in the clay body, but it also aligns those platelets up so that they lay in a uniform plate on plate pattern. This is one of the reasons why clay can crack if it's not thoroughly wedged, and it's because those platelets are not aligned correctly. It's another reason why you want to compress your pieces when you're throwing them or using slab technique, is to keep those platelets aligned. And then this second wedging, I'll stop after about 100 turns on the clay and do that just to make sure that I've removed all of the excess clay, air pockets that might be in it, and make sure it's thoroughly lined up in its platelet positioning. Again, I lost my count, but I know this clay is going to be good and wedged here in a minute. Just to show you what I'm doing from the side, I'm very lightly rolling the clay back on itself. I know for many of you this is pretty simple stuff, but I'm really gearing this toward folks that are just kind of getting into it or having problems with their clay body. You can see that I'm not making big pushes down. They're very light pushes. And that's just to make sure that I am rolling all of the clay and all of the air pockets out of it. Once I feel like I've gotten to a point where I've gotten it wedged satisfactorily, what I will do is I will just kind of slowly roll that clay body back on itself and form a bit of a cylinder. And as you can see, you know, we've got this spiral edge on each end. So what I do is I take my clay and I roll it like this, and then I roll it on the other end, and then I'll roll it back like this again. And as you can see, what I've managed to do is get rid of most of the spiral that was in there, and everything else will come out when I wedge it on the wheel. So basically that's how I process clay from a reconstituted state. I don't have a pug mill, so all this is done by hand, and but it makes for a really good throwing clay. This is an Archie Bray cone 6 to cone 10 roughly stoneware. I believe it's called ABF 12. I bought it in Archie Bray's clay tool and material center over in Helena, Montana. So hope you enjoyed. Hope it helps.